This morning, my toddlers requested cornflakes for breakfast, but we don't keep fast food in our house, so I decided to make them some. I ground up cornmeal from mini corn stalks. To that, I added whole wheat white organic flour from the wheat that I milled. I also sprinkled a piece of coconut over it for coconut sugar. For an extra zap of energy, I collected morning dew from my trees. I incorporated all the ingredients until they were batter-like consistency. Then I collected a piece of parchment paper that I had handmade. I lined my baking sheet with my recycled paper, then spooned the batter on top of it. It's supposed to look completely unappetizing at this point, so pop it in the oven as quickly as you can. Once the mixture has totally dehydrated, take it out of the oven and start breaking it into little cornflake pieces. You could give it to them as one big cornflake or break it apart. While the cornflakes are baking a second time, get milk from your sheep, goat, or other domestic animal. Store your cornflakes in a hand-blown glass jar and they will last for a long time. But ours ran out pretty quickly because both my toddlers wanted some. They finished this lukewarm cereal. I've been consumed by thoughts of boba ever since I saw no one making it on social media, so I decided to make it today. I combined morning dew and nature's sweetener with the essence of the color black. I milled a Brazilian cassava plant for its tapioca starch and heated the mixture until it became gloppy. I kneaded the unappetizing right out of the mixture, and by this point it was ready to form into little boba balls. I made the balls extra large because they shrink in water. When the bobas reached normal size, I tossed them in sugar. I foraged a rooibos from my tree and let that steep. The straw is the most important part of drinking boba, so I made mine using liquid polyethylene. Once the non-toxic plastic set, I placed it in my straw mold for a few hours. I poured my brown sugar boba into a glass and layered it with ice and rooibos tea. I obviously needed a bit of milk, which I got from my sheep goat. My straw had finally set, so I used it to drink my better than store-bought boba. That one hit the spot. My parents just boarded a 12-hour flight, so I'm starting on making them dinner for when they arrive. I imported an Idaho potato through customs and used fresh plant water to boil the pieces. I plucked my carrots in full bloom, then cut them into mini carrots and drizzled them with olive oil from my tree. The potatoes were still rare, so I put them next to the carrots to be anointed by seasons and chicken fat oil. This chick started coughing up chickpeas, so I used it to make green leafy hummus. I swished it around on the plate before getting started on my next dish. My tree yielded some fresh olives, some lemon, and leaves, which I obliviated into a gremolata. As I was plating chimichurri's not-so-famous cousin, I realized I needed sheep goat milk. I used half a pint of sheep goat milk to churn butter, which I left by the sheep goat to melt naturally. I stopped by the aquarium to catch a live fish with my bare hands and filleted it. I finished my marinade with brick-colored seasonings and cooked the fish. By this point, it was time to plate and dinner was served, but no one was here yet because they were still on the plane. We were about to go to bed when I realized we were all out of toothpaste. So my husband went down the hall to the kitchen to make some. My husband excavated bentonite clay from the rocks that were formed by volcanic ash. He's very exact with his measurements, so he always levels it out. He added a dash of morning dew because that's when fresh breath is needed the most. He mixed that until it was all smooth and broke his toothpick in the process. After quickly whittling himself a new toothpick, he harvested coconut oil from our coconut tree. This coconut oil was almost frozen solid by the refrigeration tree. After adding that to our clay mixture, he added a teaspoon of baking soda. Then he added essence of mint, which he had trapped in the jar, and stevia. After giving everything a good mix, he stored it in a glass jar. Everyone has teeth, and I love brushing mine sometimes with the texture of clay paste. The smell of this made me forget how salty it turned out to be. We've been spending a lot of time in other people's sprinklers out in the sun, and we ran out of sunscreen. So I asked my husband to make me some. We went for sunscreen with SPF between 0 and 1000. The coconuts had laid a fresh batch of coconut oil, so he put some in his bowl. He's meticulous about his measurements. Our honeybees had produced and packaged a whole bag of beeswax, so he added that in. He wanted to add shea butter, so he specifically milked our sheep goat named Shay. He quickly whipped up a perfectly square pat of butter. He added a few different types of butter as well, like coconut butter. He made sure to level all his ingredients.
Jojoba.
Next, he squeezed some jojoba from our flatulent sheep goat. After using plant water to melt the mixture, he added zinc oxyboxyphate and let it set. It was perfect. Side effects may include burning rash, itchiness, diarrhea, heartburn, and warts. Consult your dermatologist before applicating. I sent my husband on a 20-hour drive so I could make him these bubblegum lollipops as a little treat. I pulled some wax paper from my tree because that's where paper comes from. And I crushed up some dried flowers to make confectioner's sugar. I activated the gum base, which was just old gum I had from the last batch. Once I chewed it to oblivion, it looked like this, and I poured it into my sugar wells. I added some apple flavor to the mounds before kneading it. Once everything was incorporated, I cut and shaped the gumballs. Obviously, I had to try a gumball to make sure that it was functional. This one exceeded my expectations and gum-ballooned. I placed my gumballs on these handmade lollipop sticks that were just the middle of Q-tips. I boiled tree sap for the lollipop and threw in a green leaf for color. I couldn't get them out of the mold, so my husband Plucky took them out. He was so excited he ate the lollipop with his toothpick. Now he's going to the dentist.